Hi everyone, this is a special walkthrough of the August guessing game. If you're not familiar and you haven't been paying attention to descriptions and things like that, every August we do a guessing game where you can earn a bonus hat for guessing what variant is going to be used in the next day's puzzle. This is the fourth year that we've done this. The first year we did alphabetical August. I think in part because alphabetical August is alliterative, and also it having a constraint like this spurs creativity sometimes. So that particular August, the first day we did a variant starting with A, the second day we did a variant starting with B, and so on. And we ended up doing some variants that we wouldn't otherwise do. There are some letters that just don't have that many options, and they can be a little obscure. The second year, I believe we did a twist on the alphabetical thing. Again, we were hinting what letter the variant would start with, but the way we were doing that is the last letter of the variant the day before was the first letter of the variant the following day. So that was fun. I think Gap did that with us as well. So we were both doing that. Last year, we mixed it up. It didn't have anything to do with letters. It had to do with the length of the variant name. So we started with a variant that was just a single letter in the name. It might have been X. I don't remember what the first one was. I remember what the last one was. Anyway, second day it was linked to 2, and so on up to 16 in the middle of the month. And then we started going back down, because having a 31-letter variant would have just gotten silly at some point. So we went all the way back down to 1. In fact, the last day was a Sudoku. It's just a classic. So this year we had a completely different rule, and we actually decided on it very late. We had kind of discussed, are we doing this again? Throwing out some ideas, maybe we won't do it at all, that sort of thing. Bill had the suggestion of using something I'll explain shortly. And then we iterated on that a little bit to come up with our own unique twist on it. So, we're going to start with Bill's puzzles. Bill was much more out in the open about it. Clover and I had actually discussed, how are we going to do this in a consistent way and make it so that it's a pretty strict rule, so you know where to look, that sort of thing. And Bill just came in and was like, here, I'm just going to give you the code. So you'll notice in this puzzle, this is Bill's first puzzle for August. Bill included some given digits, and they are all 3, 9. So Bill wants us to think about 3, 9. Now, the other piece of the puzzle here is that several times during the month we linked a particular website. And this is something that we've linked before, I believe, possibly even in association with the guessing game. It is this site, Ropico? I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. But it's logic-puzzles.ropico.ch. I will link this in the description again. This is basically a catalog of puzzle variants. It's not just Sudoku. It has other puzzle genres. So, for example, here's one. You can get on here and explore different rule sets. And for most, if not all of them, it links to a reference. So this particular variant appeared in World Puzzle Championships in 2017. So you can find at least example puzzles. Often the first time this puzzle was used. A lot of the World Puzzle Championship puzzles and the Grand Prix puzzles, the variants are created specifically for that. So they're different. So this is a very useful resource in general. And Bill's idea was, let's emphasize it further by making it part of the guessing game. So, if we search 39 on this page, come up with a whole lot of results. And eventually we will find the one we're looking for. There it is. There's a 39 next to irregular Sudoku. What is that number? Well, all of them have numbers. It's just the ID of the puzzle. So the ID for irregular Sudoku is 39. If you bring up any puzzle and you edit the ID to a different ID, it will take you to a different puzzle type. So why is that relevant? Well, my first puzzle, following Bill, was an irregular Sudoku. So the rule here was whatever code is in the puzzle is the Ropeco ID for the next puzzle. Pretty straightforward. Now, that's two different pieces of information that you have to put together. We did link this quite a bit, but if you didn't ever click on the link, you were probably never going to figure this out. If you did click on the link, then you had to realize there are all these numbers, those are IDs, and realize that had something to do with the variants that we were picking. But Bill was very in your face about the codes. So this was his first one. Second one, he put 142 in the puzzle twice. The third one, look here, I guess. The fourth one was slightly different. He didn't put it in given digits. This time he had a 3-cell cage. And this was something that Clover actually did. We'll get to Clover's later. But the code was whatever went in this 3-cell cage. This one, the cages for full or half just made the numbers 431. And this one, back to the given digits. This one had a little bit of a red herring. There was a 348 right in the middle of the grid, but the actual code was 652, which was the digits in the circles. So that one was slightly trickier. This one, again, the lines make digits. This is a 9, that's not a 5, that's why it has this extra cell. This one, Bill put 953 in the puzzle 6 times. This one, Bill was very proud of. Figure Sudoku, you have cages of the same shape. And so Bill realized we could just do 4 ones. That would be hard to encode any other way. But he came up with this and made a very, very nice puzzle out of it. So that was a very cool one. It also meant I had to do a particular variant, and that worked out. The last day of the month, and I'm going to show spoilers for the solution of the Paint It Black Sudoku that Bill did. So if you haven't already watched my solve video on that, or solved it yourself, skip ahead a little bit, I guess, or go do that first. But this is the solution to that puzzle. And the nonogram, the shaded cells, form the digits 9 and 8. Now, this is referencing the variant that I'm doing for September 1st. We're out of the August guessing game, but Bill decided, since he was doing Paint It Black anyway, might as well encode something in it. And so we arranged for variant there. One other thing I will mention is that these variant codes are in order. So we have a 2-digit code, and then 100s, 200s, 300s, 400s, 500s, 600s, 700s. We skipped 800s because of this, but 900s, 1100s. that's just something I decided to do with the variants that I picked, was do an order like that. Didn't really have anything to do with Bill's encoding of them, other than we realized that this would work really well as the last puzzle. So that was Bill's. What about Clover? Well, Clover did something that was based on what Clover and I discussed before we started, and she did her own version of it. So we ended up doing different things. There were a few of our puzzles that used basically the same method, but her gimmick was there is a given digit that is out of place, and at the start of the month it is always in the top left corner. So 1 there, the 4 here, the 7. Even here we have 10. I have 2 digits. And Clover had to pick 0 to 9 Sudoku because of this. But these digits are the date for the next day. So Bill's puzzle was going to be on the 1st, and then on the 4th, and so on. And the digits next to them are the code. So I'm actually going to solve the first part of this puzzle just to show you how that worked. I don't get to solve Clover puzzles very often, so I'm going to do it. On video, at least. So this is 2, 3, 4. This was max cage, so the digit in the top left is the maximum digit. If the max digit is 4 here, the others have to be 2 and 3, because the 1 is already in the box. Max digit here is 6, so these must be 5, 6. And this is less than 6. If we look over here, we get 2 and 1. That eliminates 2 there. If we look down here, we need a 4 in this cage, so this is 3. We need a 6 in this cage, so this is 5, 6. And that's our code. If we go over here and look up 653, that is going to give us frame Sudoku, which was Bill's first puzzle was a frame Sudoku. So that's how Clover's rule worked at the start of the month and for most of the month. The date followed by the code. And I think Bill's were all 3 digits, at least to start with. Date, code. Date, code. The other thing you might notice about these, this is the only given in this puzzle, and this is the only given in this puzzle. But starting here, we have more givens. And the additional thing that we added was this is an asymmetric given digit. All the other givens are placed in symmetrical positions. And so the idea was to clue you in on this digit being special. It's already special because it's in the top left, and these were the only givens. So Clover kind of eased you into that, hopefully. But that was the idea with these. All the other givens are symmetrical. In the middle of the month, she did something a little different. She was doing a puzzle with clues on the outside, and so there's a 16 right here, and that is the code next to it. This time she went down from the 19. And then here she did something different. So we would need a 22 here. That's going to be tricky to do in Sudoku. You can do it diagonally. But instead of that, Clover, much like Bill's nonogram, Clover decided to do a Japanese sums so she could draw it. So let's do this one real quick. The rules for this are like the nonogram. We're going to have runs of cells that are either red or gray or unshaded. And the sum is given rather than the number of cells. So if the sum in this column is 1, that's the only shaded cell, and it is red. The 1 and the 2 here are red. And then here we have 24. 24 is going to have to be 7, 8, 9. I'm not actually going to fill in the digits, but we will use a little bit of Sudoku. The gray cells can't go next to each other. Gray and red can go next to each other, but the gray cells can't. So this is a 1. There's actually a clue cut off up here. There's a 5 above this column, so we'll just keep that in mind. This has to be gray for a little more complicated reason. We know this is a 1, so just this can't be 10. And adding a 9 and a 1 and whatever's in this cell is going to be too big, so this must be gray. And that means this is gray. And I don't remember if we can get this immediately. We'll come back to it. All these are going to be unshaded though. All of these are unshaded. That's unshaded. The 14. The 14 is going to have to go down at least this far. The 5 here means this. Well, this is gray actually. That. These are unshaded. This is unshaded because it's not a 3, and it's bigger than 3. The 4 here is red, and the 2, 3 are gray, so that row is done. One thing to notice in this row is 9 and 15 and 21 is 45, it is the entire row. So we know we need at least 3 cells for the 21, and we need at least 2 cells for the 9 because there's a 9 in the box. It could be 3 cells. We don't know if these are red or gray yet. Actually, this one we do. We have a single 16 clue, so those have to be connected. It's going to finish that row. And you can probably start to guess what this is going to look like. We have a 4 in red here, and red is done now. These are all gray. Unshaded red. This is gray, which means this is gray. They can't go next to each other. You can probably tell what this is going to be. This is going to be a 9. 24 here has to be all 3 of these cells. The 15 can't go here. For a couple of reasons. We have all 3 of the clues in this column. We have 2 clues in this column. We have a single clue in this column. So none of those can be gray. And then a little bit of a advanced step that's probably not at all necessary. But because we're just solving it with the shading, a little bit of thought has to go into it. This 24 is 7, 8, 9, so we can't do 15 in 2 cells, because that would take 2 digits from 6, 7, 8, 9, and that would be a problem. So this has to be all 3 cells. It's an 8. This does have to be gray. It can't be red, because there's no red in this column. So it is gray. And then this cell... same as the 15 here. This is 7, 8, 9. We could do 5, 9 actually. So why doesn't 5, 9 work? Because this is 7. Yeah. This is 7 because of the 9, 8 here. So we need 4 in the remaining cells. This can't be big enough. So that is great. And that is what the Japanese sum shading looks like. And then you can solve the rest of the puzzle using the actual sums, but it gives a 9, 4, 8. So this is the only one Clover did like this. It's very pretty. I like it a lot. But then here we're back to our encoding, and you'll notice here she started doing something a little different, which is more like what I was doing. But these are asymmetric. All the other givens are symmetric. But they're on a diagonal, so that means the code is also on the diagonal. And then the 28 here, calling back to the 16 clue, we do have a 2-8 here. I think this wasn't a valid variant, from what I remember, but also it is asymmetrically placed clue. This is the only 28 that's out of place. There's no 28 down here, so that tells us the code is here. So that's how Clover's worked. Mine was probably the most complicated, for various reasons. So this is actually what I originally suggested. I had pointed out for 2-digit dates, we could just have the code follow in the direction of that 2-digit date. So with Clover's puzzle here, we have them on the diagonal, so the code goes that way. In this one, we have them vertically, so the code goes here. So Clover asks, how are we going to do that with single-digit dates? And my response was, well, we could make them asymmetric. And we can make them sit on an edge of the grid so that they can only go one direction. So that's what I did with my first one. This is the only asymmetric digit. All the other digits are paired. This is a very symmetric puzzle except for this 3. And the code is right here below it. Because we can't go to the right. There's no room. One of the things that I tried to do with varying degrees of success is make a puzzle that looks very symmetric except for this out-of-place given, and have that out-of-place given force the solution to not be symmetric. So this does not have a symmetric solution, whereas if this 3 weren't here and it had a solution, it would have to either be symmetric or have multiple solutions. So what I mean by that, the 1s and the 2s are rotationally symmetric. So whatever the solution looks like, if this 3 isn't here, the 1s and the 2s are going to have to be symmetric in the solution as well. And the reason for that is whatever logic I do on the 1s, I'm going to be able to do on the 2s rotationally symmetric. So having this asymmetric given breaks that, potentially. You can still end up with symmetric solutions, but it is a way of breaking that symmetry. And so I tried to make sure that that extra given digit did break the symmetry. So in this one, a little something different. I put it at the bottom, so now it goes to the right. It can't go down. And again, all the digits are symmetric. And unlike Clover's, they're symmetric in such a way that there is a mapping between them. So last time we had the 1s and the 2s. We had the 7s and the 8s. We had the 6s and the 9s, 4s and 5s. This time we did what Lucien likes to call X-windmill symmetry, where the rotationally symmetric pairs of digits, here 2 and 8, they always sum to 10. So 2 plus 8 is 10, 1 plus 9 is 10, 3 plus 7 is 10, 5 plus 5 is 10. And so if this 6 weren't here and it had a unique solution, we would be able to put a 5 in the middle because it's the only digit that is symmetric with itself, maps to itself. But because of this 6, we end up with not a symmetric solution. So that isn't really related to the guessing game, but a little insight in the constraints I put on myself setting puzzles sometimes. This one, I did the 9, and now this has 2 possibilities. It could go this way or this way. But you want to go diagonally, and my logic for that was each of these we ended up in the bottom right corner, which kind of mirrored Clover's top left corner. But this one, in order to end up in the bottom right corner, you have to go diagonally. So the code is there. But you could try these. I don't remember if either or both were valid Sudoku variants. It could have been. But this is the way to go. So now for 2-digit dates, we don't have that same restriction. We don't need the asymmetry because now we have 1, 2. It can be symmetric with 8, 9, and these are not the same. So the code follows the 1, 2 here. This is like what Clover did for the 25th date, the 2, 5, and then the diagonal. And so I did the same here. Now this one had a little bit of a red herring. There is a 15 here. There's a 15 here. The reason it's not this 15 is because there is some asymmetry here. This 5 does not have a friend, and all the rest of the digits are symmetric. So this goes back to that asymmetric given thing, to tell you that this is the 15 you need to use. And if you looked up this code, I think it gave you some snake genre. It's not Sudoku. Anyway. This one I put in 2 18s. The actual one is here. If you tried to use this digit, I believe, let's click on something random. I believe that digit is a 7, and this is what you get. This is not Sudoku, and it would not work at Sudoku. Challenge to Clover and Bill, I guess, to try and make this work as Sudoku. But that was not the code. This was the code. And I think all of mine were 3 digits as well, so that worked out. More red herrings in this one. So the actual code goes here, but I did include lots of 21s. And the 21 here is pointing to another 21. This one is on the edge of the grid. This one is pointing to another 21. It could have been this, maybe, but this is the code. And the reason I did that for this one, this is just a happy coincidence. It didn't occur to me when I was picking variants. But this is bus Sudoku, and in bus Sudoku, 21 is very important. You're looking at a number of cells that get you to a sum greater than 21. So that worked out really nicely with kind of the blackjack theme of this puzzle. 24, different. And this one tripped a lot of people up. Some of you looked at the arrows and said, okay, there's a 7 here, there's a 6 here, there's a 1 here, maybe it's 617 along the path. This is repeated here, so that was a little bit of a red herring. That's not the solution. You'll notice these are both 7, and if you solve the puzzle, this is actually also 7. And so we have 3 places where it could be the code, but we know 7 doesn't work on its own. So it could be this, but it's actually 777. Which, again, possible to put in a Sudoku. I could have used like these cells, well, not those because I wouldn't have been able to put a 2, 4 next to it. Maybe these cells with the 2, 4 here. That would have worked, but since they were repeated digits, I thought it would be fun to just repeat the clue. So this is one I actually said, hey, Clover, how do you feel about setting coded pairs? And she went with it. So, alright. This next one, I'm going to show a spoiler for this one, so again, skip ahead or solve this if you haven't already. We would be expecting a 27 in the grid, and in fact there are no 2s or 7s given. There are only 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's not 8, 9 either. This was mostly an aesthetic choice. It's actually kind of hard to set a puzzle, a quad max puzzle, that doesn't have high digits to disambiguate high digits. Not as hard as it is with the low digits. But that's why there are a lot of low digits. That's why there are 6s at all. I wanted to avoid 6 as well if I could, or avoid 1. avoiding 1 in particular would have been helpful. But you end up with deadly patterns if you avoid the 1, because you can swap 1s and 2s without affecting the rule at all. But just an aesthetic choice. All the given digits are symmetric. All the arrows are symmetric. It's not a symmetric puzzle because the rule isn't symmetric. How did that end up there? Anyway. It's also not a symmetric puzzle because the mapping is not symmetric. This is 3-1, this is 4-1, this is 5-3, etc. Anyway. Getting sidetracked. Rambling. So, I'm going to show some of the solution digits for this in just a second, so skip ahead if you don't want to see it. This is the code. So we do have 2-7 all throughout the grid. Have a bunch of them. We have 8 of them, in fact. 6 is not a valid code. It's also a given digit, and I never did a given digit as part of code throughout the month. Same with the 4 here. But these, and same with 4 here actually, these always have 627 following them. And in fact, we have 627 here, and 627 here, and 627 here. So, a little in your face with that one, but you did have to solve the puzzle to realize that's what was going on. So I had fun making that. Getting it to work was a pain, but I had fun. So then we get to the last day of the month, and throughout the month I had been doing given digits, or at least the filled digits for this puzzle, but I needed a 30 for this one. So I could have done a 0 to 9 or 0 to 8 or some variation along those lines. But Bill had the idea of doing that figures Sudoku and cluing factor lines. And so I realized I could just draw them with lines like Bill's done for some of his. So that's why I did this. And we have the 3-0 in orange. The lines are the same either way. But the code was here in the center of the 0. I will mention the original version of this that got posted on GM Puzzles was missing this 1. And before I posted the update, Lucian saw this was an asymmetric digit and thought, okay, this must be the code. And so I corrected that, and he corrected his guess. But just a little silly moment. But this was the code for this one. You actually narrow down these digits pretty early to a triple. And then you have to figure out which way around the triple goes. If I wanted to be really devious, I could have not had this resolve, and you have to resolve it by going to the site and figuring out which one of those is a valid code. I bet I could have done that for some choices of code. But I ended up putting it here, and that worked out pretty nicely and made a pretty puzzle. So that is every puzzle for the month, and the way we coded the next variant for each. It's probably about 10 different versions of rules, with Bill's very in-your-face style, drawing things and just having given digits and things like that. Me and Clover did the asymmetric given or the date or both most of the month, but with a little twist on that. So I hope you enjoyed that, or at least didn't get annoyed by it being there when you were solving the puzzles and ignoring our silliness. We have a lot of fun doing things like this. I think everybody knows how much fun we have on April Fools doing completely random, silly things. But this is another thing. It's kind of fun to have some sort of constraint and some sort of interaction with you guys that isn't just solving the puzzle. It's a little something different. So we enjoyed that. I hope you enjoy it too. If you don't, it's just a month, and hopefully it doesn't bother you too much. But that's all for this video. It's probably long enough as it is. I've got to post a puzzle now, and I will include this and my walkthrough of Bill's puzzle when I do that. So you will see those shortly.